Welcome to part 2 of my weaving projects from this last year. This section is going to focus on a book project that I am working on with a team of other people. We're having a great time doing it. This is Sigrid Palmgrens vävbok och vi ska väva allting som finns i den här boken. We're going to weave everything in the book. This is a project I've wanted to do for decades when I first saw one of these books, these beautiful projects. Let's take a look at this first page. And so you can see what we have to work with. There's not very much information, but there's the threading and the tie-up and no treadlings, the materials. And so we're adapting these to materials available now. There's some just simple white towels with red lines, and then some simple goose-eye towels there, and a M's and O's towels, and some other red and white stripy things and other intriguing things. We'll look at more of the book later, but let's start with these beginning projects. This is my first set of towels, done in plain weaves and twills and a few other structures as well. And even just a plain weave towel out of a book, it's the most basic project. I have learned so much already from doing these towels. You can, if you take a look down here at Towel Alley, a lot of them use fine threads in the warp in cotton, but then a thicker thread in the weft. And what that means is it's really easy to weave. You don't need a temple. These are just so easy and pleasant to weave. And so we go on to the next one. This is a herringbone with just a little stripe at the edge. I've done these in rainbow colors just for the fun of it. Little hand-woven hanger tabs on the corners of all these square towels. These are the M's and O's towels. I chose a bunch of earth tones, but if you can get up close to see, just a nice, simple block design in 2 blocks in M's and O's. It's called Halfdrell in Swedish. This is a Swedish book from the 40s that we're working through all the projects. And here's a set of goose-eye towels. And so this is a chunky goose-eye towel. This is a very similar goose-eye towel in many ways, but it's with a thinner weft. You probably can't tell in the video, but very different feel to use and to weave. But they were both in the book, so we're going right through page by page. In some cases, we're jumping around. And these towels, these are fun because people that came to Vävstuga years ago might recognize these as our bathroom towels for many years. Little hanger tab in the corner. This is Halfdrell, so this is a 2-block technique. Just uses 4 shafts. Sometimes called fattigmansdrell or poor man's damask, because you can do these kind of damasky looking patterns with only 4 shafts. And then this was an intriguing project because they're bath towels. And I really haven't made much in the way of bath towels before, but the book had bath towels, so I thought, well, let's try this out. It's a chunky, textured structure with 6 shafts. Put the hanger tab in the middle. I tripled cotton for the weft, and so it can hang up just that way and be kind of nice. And we've got some different colors here. I wove one in all linen. And so I experimented with some different wefts. This is 3 different colors of cotton together, and you can kind of see how it makes a nice blend. And this is just a more muted linen color. There was another set of bath towels in the book. These are a linen warp and linen weft, so linen 100%, although it gave an option to do a cotton warp and a linen weft. And so we'll do that in our book as well. We're going to give you different options for warp yarns and weft yarns at times for the same project, because it gives for more choices and more variety. So these are some linen ones. Again, a textured weave. I think this was just a 4-shaft weave, but a very interesting texture. So we'll set these aside. In fact, we're going to shove our towels down Towel Alley a little bit. And these can get plopped over there. And then the book went on to some other things. We're going to take a look at this pile next. This was plot vev, and they even suggested this as being a coverlet. So this is a bunch of things you can do with this. There's 2 pattern treadles. It's a variation of monk's belt. So just this simple float, it's so simple, just floating over 4, 2 blocks. That's all you have to work with. But you can alternate the pattern treadles with no tabby. You could put tabby in between the pattern. And then, of course, you can do whatever stripes you want. You could enter plain weave when you want. So I did several samples of this. And this is a project that was also worked on by one of our teammates. We've got a whole team of people working with us on this book project. So here we've just got plain weave. But it's not actually, see, there's real plain weave here, but this is the 2 pattern treadles, but used as a weft-faced plain weave. So it's a channel with 4 warps going through each of these columns, but then here you see the true plain weave. And this one, I believe, uses only the 2 pattern treadles, but it's using it as a weft-faced plain weave, but just 4 threads by 4 threads. And then here's another combination. This is using some yarns that were dyed during our fiber frolic. And so those are some kind of fun colors there. And then this is all wool, but here this one's all cotton. So I experimented in a few different ways with that. Ooh, this one I love. We'll roll that out. That's monk's belt and rose path alternating in the same piece. How do you do that? That's a 4-shaft structure. There's a 4-shaft structure. They're not compatible with each other, but on 8 shafts you can make them compatible. And so it's a really, really fun thing to do. I played around with the last bit of this warp with some different colorways and patterning. This one again was worked on and threaded by one of our teammates. And so some of the other people on this book team, the idea is you'll get to see some of their beautiful woven projects from these warps when we publish the book. And so here is an interesting 8-shaft kind of rose path on a plain weave ground, which I had never seen before. And so that was a really interesting thing to learn out of the book. And this is puckery because I washed this piece more than I meant to. The wool shrank, and this is linen here, which is not shrunk, but it's a nice kind of seersucker if you decide. You just have to decide to like it sometimes when you do things like that to your pieces. Let's look at, here's something that you can probably all relate to. This is a roll of napkins, uncut, unhemmed, but it's a whole lot of them. It's a big, long roll. You might have seen my video that I put out a short while ago about weaving. This piece, I was weaving it on a 70-centimeter ideal loom, pretty small loom, and with damask pulleys, with 10 shafts. A loom is really only meant to hold 8 shafts. So that's kind of a fun video to see how I was pushing the envelope there. At the very end of the warp, I wove a little bit in cotton. This is a cotton warp, linen weft, but here's cotton both ways, and just a different texture, and it's a little bit different pattern to the treadling, which was fun. I started out with a different set in a finer reed, but I decided I wanted to open it up, so I reslayed the reed. These are all things that happen when you're experimenting with projects. Let's look at these. This is a Halfdrell piece, cotton warp, linen weft. Just a simple checkerboard with a nice border on it. I wove another one in just a golden bleached color. I guess I used in the linen there for the pattern weft. And this one, I used 2 colors for the 2 different blocks. And then I used a tow linen. I think I used an 8 tow linen for that weft. It's a fine cotton warp. And the very end, I had some warp left over, and I thought, well, why don't I see what it's like to weave a little bit of just fabric out of cotton. So I played around with the blocks and the plain weave and colors and came up with that little design. And got next? Here is another project. There are a number of these damask pieces in the book, and there's still more coming that I haven't gotten to yet. But my helper, Tanya, who you maybe know from the store, she works for us at Vävstuga, but she's wound a lot of warps for me and done a lot of threading, including for some of these. And so here, so little squares on a plain background, but then you use a different profile tie-up and you can get this checkerboard on the same warp. In the end, I couldn't resist just playing around with a cotton weft a little bit and colors. It could have an application somehow, although that little piece, who knows what it could turn into. Let's come on over here next. Here is a roll of upholstery fabric. And this is a project put on by one of our teammates here at the farmhouse. And this is Halfdrell as well, and it's nice and chunky. With Halfdrell, the floats are small. Actually, I think I just lied. I think it's Jämtlandsdrell. Anyway, I should know, and I do if I look at my notes. But it's a really nice upholstery. The weft is a mixture of wool and linen, and it's just, it was tricky copying the pattern right out of the book, but I think that we got it. I learned a lot about putting the right plain weave between the patterns here, and there were two different tricks I used to make it come out right and not be confusing. The end of this warp, I played around and just came up with something a little bit different, which was fun. I like how the linen here at the edge of this pattern area did a little bubbly thing. It almost makes it look like boucle, but it's not. It's actually just linen on a cotton ground. And then we come to some of these beautiful fabrics. This is a lightweight, billowy fabric. It could be a dress fabric, and it's called a dress fabric in the book. It's actually M's and O's. If you could look at that, you can kind of see that it's M's and O's, and here are the places where you're floating over for, under for, but alternating colors makes that nice decorative polka dot. And again, just the picture to look at in the book, and the picture isn't that clear because it's as good as they could do in the 40s, the vintage of the book. Oh, and I did a little bit of different something here at the end, because I always like to play around a bit at the end of a warp and do something different. Think of, it's hard to think of how many different things there could be. Too many. And this is, maybe it's pretending to be a little dotted Swiss, but isn't that cute? So simple, but textured, it feels nice. This again would be clothing fabric, fairly fine threads. I think this was 24-2 cotton or 22 cotton, one of those. And now we have a few pieces that I didn't weave. These were completely woven by some of our teammates from the book. This nice honeycomb, actually 2 honeycombs. This is a one-sided fabric. There's floats on the back, but this really interesting texture on the front. These are done on overshot threadings. And then this is just a lovely waffle weave with these beautiful colors. And so we can zoom in on that, and you can get a look. And then I'm going to make space here on the table for a few more things to show you. And we're going to end with these dusting claws. I meant to do them earlier, but I can't forget. This is my favorite project. Kind of funny for that to be a favorite project. Let's look at this rep rug next. So this was not made by me. This was a warp that one of our book teammates took home from a class, and she did this at home. She made a rug for herself and sent this one back to me. Isn't it beautiful? Just very, very exciting. There's a number of rep rugs in the book, so we've got more work to do. I'll give you a peek at that. And then these two things I did weave, but they were set up by some of our teammates. This is an inlay curtain upside down to you, right side up to me, and Rusvev. So this was a learning curve for me. I've learned so much from this book in almost every project. Even when the project seems simple, it's surprising how much there is to learn from each one. And this is some dress fabric in 32 cotton plain weave. And this was a delight to weave. The 32 cotton is a beautiful, strong yarn. It's more weft shots than chunkier yarn, but it is very well behaved yarn and really pretty easy to work with. And now let's take a look. I'm just going to flip through a little bit of this book from the back, and you can see, you'll see some familiar things. Well, here's some more rep rugs that are coming. And you see we've got, as I said, more work to do. But you'll see some familiar things in a minute here, I'm sure. Some fuzzy things. Here's that nice billowy dress fabric in M's and O's. Here's this fabric that we're looking at right now. That was the little polka dot fabric trying to be dotted Swiss, a little textured piece. And here are the curtains we just looked at, the inlay curtains. And it goes on. There's some other fun inlays to do. These curtains are hanging up on some windows right now, so I forgot to bring those out. Rose Path, and this is a piece that we've done at the studio. I forgot to bring that one out too, but we've done that. Here's some of the honeycomb. There's the upholstery fabric. You can see that's the picture we had to go by, and that's the amount of instruction, and so you get to figure out the rest yourself. But in the book, the idea is we'll give a little bit more instruction. And as I said before, options for different materials to use. So this is such an exciting project. And we really made quite a bit of progress. There's the Monk's Belt and Rose Path. There's some overshots. And there's another one of the honeycombs. And then some of the damask pieces, a little checkerboard ones. These are on beams. Tanya will be threading those next. There's the little bathroom towels, and here are the towels at the beginning. So we're going to keep working on that, and just stay tuned. And we're going to finally end with my favorite. These are called dust cloths in the book. And why not have a hand-woven dusting cloth? Because look, you can dust off your loom. Not that our looms ever need it, but it's such a pleasure to use. This makes you want to be dusting in your house. I just love these. They're fun. They're red on one side, white on another. 4 shafts, 8 treadles. It's just a really fun, a practical thing. I'm going to use these. Thank you for watching.